Yo, what's good everyone? It's zi8gzag here. Welcome back to another zi8gzag video, and I have not made much content surrounding the World League yet. It's for a variety of reasons. Probably primarily, I'm not the biggest fan of the format, so it doesn't really get me excited to talk about it. But today I had my best of 3 against Blinky, and without spoiling the result, the series ended up being super exciting between us, so I thought I'd analyze it today. Also, because of my position in the league, I've already qualified for Tokyo, so on the 18th of May, I'll be playing, and if I win that tournament, then I'll be basically guaranteed for the World Cup. Anyway, let us talk about this game. So obviously it goes moving, then no moving, and then if it's one apiece, then it goes NMPZ. Blinky, best moving player in the world. Let's see what damage I could do against him on the moving format. So I'll just kind of chit chat about what I was thinking during the rounds. And we have this first one here, which was immediately obviously France to me. And yeah, I was not too happy. My tactics were just go quickly here. And that was generally speaking my tactic for the entire moving duel, but especially on France. France has great moving information, like the phone codes are super useful. In addition to that, I would say place names often follow regional patterns, and it's not stuff I know. So my tactic was obviously to go pretty quickly here. The buildings were white with black roofs, and they kind of had a shape that was a little bit Celtic. So I went northwest, like in that kind of Normandy area, and Blinky does make it to some signs here, but I believe they're not too useful. I don't think he actually read anything too useful, but he goes near Rennes, and would you look at that? He's extremely close. Maybe he actually did see something, because 20 kilometers is pretty unreasonably close for France. Blinky, from the comments, let me know. Yeah, obviously it's round 1, so the multipliers only mean that that's 400-ish points of damage, and I was like, please no more France, because even though I like France, and it's one of my favorite countries to guess, on NMPZ at least, but on moving, no, especially not against Blinky. Next one here, we have a Finland. It's obviously Finland, but Finland's a pretty big country, so even at 1.5, you want to get as close as you can. And I noticed that the movement is really slow. There is a sign over here, and I just wasn't moving quick enough. And I was like, well, I'm unlikely to know whatever was on that sign anyway. So my logic was, let's just guess quickly. We have these green fields. Like whenever you see like green open fields, it's more likely to be in the south of Finland, where you get more agriculture. But this autumn coverage is more common in the north, so I wasn't quite sure. Blinky makes it to a really small town name, I think. And he definitely had a vibe for where it was. Goes for quite a specific zoom, but can't find it. I'm not sure how he went for such a specific zoom here. He definitely had some kind of a region guess and ends up plonking not exactly on it, but he definitely knew something there to get near Oulu. And as this was coming through, I was like, yeah, the max north I think it would be is Oulu, and it ended up being above Oulu anyway. But yeah, not the best, obviously. Not a good start to the moving duel. That being said, my mindset for this entire thing was, hey, he's very likely to win this duel, especially the moving one. So let me just play freely, you know, do what I can, but at the end of the day, moving, I can't expect to win. Okay, next one here. We are in Brazil. Brazil urban, maybe my least favorite kind of round against someone like Blinky. Basically, Blinky can just come to information way quicker than I can because he's way better at moving, and for me, I have to get lucky and get a phone code. I chose not to instantly guess because I thought this is probably too much of an urban round to really justify an insta-send. He can probably find something in the 15 seconds, and it looked very generic anyway. So I was thinking, honestly, that it was more north at first. I was not quite sure on the region at all. You can see I stopped to pay attention to these tiles because they're flat tiles, and flat tiles are more common kind of in the center and the north of the country, but not the northeast. So yeah, it was just like adding to my guess. I checked out this palm tree. It's kind of the shaggy kind of palm tree. So I was trying to add those two things together. So those two factors added to a middle click. So I think at some point here, I just go in and click the middle of Brazil. And then I'm looking for something specific, namely a phone code. Blinky, with 38 seconds left, comes to this very helpful sign, which does have a postal code and an address, but it does not have a phone code. So Blinky probably expected to get something there, checks the next door, and the next door, I think, also doesn't quite have it has a phone number, but not a phone code. So we're still just looking for that 2-digit code at the start of the phone number, which would give it to us. As you can see, I'm down in the middle of Brazil now. Blinky comes to a 1-4 area code. So 1-4 means you're going to be in the state of Sao Paulo, which is further south than I thought it was. So I really needed to come to something quick. Finally, I come out to this, and just to my luck, there's another one here. It wasn't really my good play or anything, but we come to a 1-4, and I didn't actually check the map back to see if I guessed within 1-4. I think I didn't, but I can't actually remember. 1-4, I just thought it was vaguely northeast. Blinky's sent in the middle of the state though, so I think I was wrong about that. Definitely something you should know if you're gonna play in the World League, but I just don't like learning phone codes, so That's my own detriment and my own stubbornness. I do know them, but not that well. And Blinky is, of course, closer to the tune of 600 points. So yeah, not too bad here. My idea in moving is just to stay alive and then hopefully get a rural round later on where I can just exploit and go for a huge guess. But at the end of the day, you know, you can't really expect to win. And Blinky moves one step at the start of this next one, which is Japan. Urban Japan, again, another thing I don't want to see. So in many ways, with the France, with the Finland with a sign, with this round and the last round, not an ideal start to the seed, as you can see from the score. But anyway, 0969, it means we're going to be in the south of Japan. I didn't see that at first. But my tactic on Japan is not to try and read anything, because you get bogged down by reading. Instead, I go for poles and pole plates. And the infrastructure on the poles I remember pretty well, so that's always my tactics in Japan. Meanwhile, Blinky, who knows every area code, he can just read that and know exactly what city it should be. And so clearly he's memorized that 0969 is Kumamoto, because he just goes for it. He doesn't even look any further, which is a pretty baller move, to be fair. Meanwhile, I looked at the infrastructure, worked out it should be Kyushu, the island over here. And then I saw this red striped paint job on the street sign, which is only found in the prefecture of Kumamoto. And so it's actually kind of funny, on this round, we got the same answer with completely different tactics. But anyway, I have an extra 10 seconds now that I know the prefecture to go and look a little bit further, see if I can find anything. And I see that we have ocean to our east, which, to be fair, does not make sense for Kumamoto. So I didn't question it, because I knew that red stripe is very consistent in terms of a clue, but I was like, maybe we are like on one of these islands. And I thought about switching, but at the end of the day, there just wasn't time. I hadn't quite worked out what the landscape was. It was one of these islands, and you know, it felt like a bigger city, so I did not really think it would actually be out there, but it was. It makes sense with that Eastern Ocean, and it is 110 damage, so not too bad there. But we are still getting flossed at this stage, so that's obviously not ideal. Would have liked to have had a stronger start. Next one here, we have an urban Senegal. Immediately as the time starts, I zoom in to the same sign that Blinky zooms into, and it says, what does it say there? Actually, I need to go back so we can actually read the exact thing. It says, Marché Central Fatigue. Oh no, I'm saying it in Spanish accent, but you know what I mean. The name is Fatigue here. That's the name of the town. It's also one of the names of the provinces in Senegal. And I happen to know this one because, I mean, it's one of the bigger ones, to be fair, as well. And also Steak, if you remember him, one of his nicknames was Fatigue, so named after this exact city. So I definitely remembered where that was. That was no issue. We both get the same. And to be honest, this is a good type of round for me. As long as I know it, that's fine, because I wanted to run up the multis, get them higher and higher. It gives me a better chance of getting one of those huge swings at the end of a moving game. So we move forward to the next round. Can't remember what the next one was, actually. A lot of these rounds just leave my head as soon as we played them, but that's right, we get another France. Guys, this seed, I mean, sometimes you just get a bad seed, but this seed has been pretty horrible. Like, I need big countries, but slightly rural at least. Against Blinky, there's not many win conditions, but this is not it. I can tell you that much. So yeah, clearly we are in France here. I noticed the roofs are kind of red, so that's kind of common around Lyon. Blinky does come to some pretty big information at the end of this road. He actually drives past a phone number to get to this, so he trusts the place names more. And a last second, yeah, it was Dijon, I was remembering. Last second adjustment there is really good. He must have like gotten a vibe off those place names or roughly knew where they were, because that's another 1.5k damage. Look at me, I'm like, come on, bro. When are we gonna get proper rounds here? But double France against Blinky. 6,000 to 2,000 HP, and we're in Germany. I'm like, oh my gosh, can it please stop? But Germany's another extremely densely information country. I would have much preferred Russia or something like that, where I can just go for the Blonkov, but Germany's just not that kind of country. That being said, I'm like, I'm not gonna know anything on these freaking signs, so I just go for the guess here. I'm just like, we got red brick architecture, so it should be the north. It just generally vibes like the north quite a lot. And Blinky uses his extra 10 seconds here. I don't think there's too much on that sign. It might have said the state name. Did it say something state? I'm not really sure. Anyway, it was outside of Bremen there, and we were both kind of equidistant there. Nevertheless, Blinky is 10 kilometers closer, so it's another 132 points of damage, taking me below 2,000. So obviously, huge plays are required, and we come up a bit of an interesting round here. We're in the Philippines immediately, and it's pretty urban, right? I mean, obviously it's a rural area, but there's buildings around us, and urban Philippines is pretty rich with information as well. Again, not a country I would have wanted. That being said, on 4.5 times multis, one great guess on urban Philippines can net you the win. So it wasn't at least as bad as it could have been. The starting view, I was just very confused. I was thinking this could be all the way north or all the way south, and that's not the feeling you want to be. Nevertheless, it was a tactical error here. I should have guessed within the first 5 seconds just to give myself a shot, or tried to play out the whole time. So I needed to make that decision, and yeah, I just really misplayed this round in terms of tactics, definitely, but I'm not saying I didn't win it, you know. Stay tuned in the next few seconds to see if I do. But I definitely should have like either gone for a quick guess or tried to play out the entire time and get one of the place names myself. Blinky comes across this sign, and what does it actually say there? Provincial blah blah blah. It's got state shields on there. And at this quality, we definitely can't read that. I'm not sure. He takes quite a long look at it. Does he actually guess off that? No, he doesn't. He comes across this next sign. I was going to say, that last sign did not look actually useful. This one, though. Okay, it does say South Cotabato here, which is the name of a area. Cotabato, I think it's the Muslim province of Philippines down here. Yeah, South Cotabato, all the way down near General Santos City. Obviously, here I am without any signs. So this is what I meant. I should have just put the pressure on immediately. So he probably wouldn't have come to that if I did that. So I get the extra time. I guess I did let the time run out in a way. I couldn't remember what these tuk-tuks were, and the tuk-tuks would have been the key here. Can't remember them. So I do get the vibe that they're southern ones, but I could not remember where. And of course, it was exactly where he clicked, and that was the game. So there we go, flawless victory for Blinky here, 5 kilometers away. But this series has much more to offer, as I think you know from the fact that I'm making this video. So let's get through to the next game. Blinky, stoic as ever, no beanie though. And we get through to the no moving game. Okay, so first things first here, we got South Africa. It's very obvious because we're driving left, and we have this like barren black landscape, this Google car, everything adds up. It's not a particularly difficult country to recognize, but to region guess can be difficult. It's quite flat for the Western standards, so I think we're probably going to be north of those kind of mountains you get on the coast. And it's also this kind of very black, kind of black bush vegetation. This road here lined up quite nicely, ends up being the road. Not often that I'm lining up a road better than Blinky, but you know, we'll take that. It's a good start, a good little confidence boost after not doing a single point of damage. Already 300 on round 1. Round number 2 here. Is it a country I like to see? Not necessarily here. So this is a really interesting round. I think the casters didn't really pick up on how much I changed my guess last second here, and also how insane Blinky's guess is. So first things first, we got this yellow taxi here. That's the Colombian style of taxi, also in Panama as well. And they will have the town name written on the side of the taxi, but it was just too far away on No Moving to actually get that information. And yeah, it's definitely a run downtown a little bit here. Beyond that, I was really not quite sure where in the country I thought sometimes lamps can help you guess. There's a few different styles of lamps. Blinky is reading the side of these poles. I wonder if that's how he ended up getting such a close guess here, but he actually gets quite a crazy guess in my opinion. He's looking at the angle of the valley as well and zooms into the south and immediately, see this, I don't understand actually how he's gotten this. I don't. But anyway, you can see I'm clicked north of Bogota here on 1.5 times damage. This could still be thousands of points. Thousands, I think. Yeah, it could even be like up to 3,000 points if I leave it up here and he's got the exact town. And I was just like, well, to me, it just didn't give any vibe. If anything, it gave me the vibe before I clicked. But I noticed we had the black car with the brake light, and I was like, it could pass us south. If he's put me in, I was like, if he's put me in, maybe he knows it's something specific. So I ended up switching last second here. I was like, I don't know. I'm just gonna be so annoyed if it is south, and something just drew me to that guess. I don't really know. Like, there's nothing specific here. It looks like any other town. So I end up clicking all the way south near Pasto, which is where you get this coverage. Not only the place, not the only place, but you know, one place where you get this coverage. And yeah, he's somehow gotten it. It did start with a P, I guess. It said P on the poll, but I'm still unsure. Blinky, again, if you're in the comments, let us know, because that was a pretty crazy guess, 300 points. Again, I'm still in the lead at this point, but that is, I mean, I'm lucky to have gotten so close in some ways, but also that's a remarkable guess from Blinky. What can you really expect from the world champion? Okay, next one here, we have the black car. I think this is probably my biggest blunder of the no moving game, or one of my biggest blunders at least, because I'm pretty sure I didn't guess where the black car actually went. I decided to trust the landscape more instead, because my car knowledge is fuzzy. Basically, in Mexico, there's tons of different Google cars, and you have to remember exactly where they went and exactly in what year, and it's very frustrating. I don't like it, but it's a necessary part of the game, of course. And yeah, with the black car, it's really common in like Oaxaca in general, but North Oaxaca makes sense with this landscape. So that's a really nice guess from Blinky, and I just don't pick up the vibe here. I did consider it for sure, but I just decided to guess where you get a lot of this kind of landscape, the very green with like orchards and stuff like that. So I leave it there, and pretty annoyed about this one. Can you see it on my face? not really. But Blinky, you can't see his joy either. We're very stoic, I guess. And it's 1,600 points of damage. Not a bad result there, I guess. It could have been much worse. If it was later on, it would have been a massive swing. And we get through to 2.5 times damage here. We have a very interesting round here. So one thing to note is the grass is really long on the side of the road, which is something you see specifically in the center of the country. And so we basically immediately plonk our markers down on the exact same place here, because it's just the standard guess at this stage. Now, if I'm looking back, because we didn't actually get this round right, neither of us, if I'm looking back and we actually end up guessing the exact place, actually kind of crazy. But if I'm looking back, this kind of very hazy coverage where it looks like there's been a bushfire or something, I think there's a lot of crop burning going on in Mato Grosso, this state here. So I think it is actually kind of a gettable round. That being said, I mean, it definitely looked like Tocantins, and just like in that Colombia round where I combined the car and the copyright to get a close guess, this style of car and copyright is really common in Tocantins. So we kind of also use the meta, and yeah, it's an interesting round. Okay, so Blinky still with a 1,500 point advantage after that Mexico. And we have the next round here. This is a rare Japan where all you have to go off of is the vegetation vibe. So we had a little bit of landscape. You could see some hills in the background. And we had poles, but they weren't useful at all. Basically unuseful. And then we had the trees and the grass. And the grass, this kind of tufty grass that we can see here, it's more common in the south of Japan, but only marginally. You can definitely see it all the way north of Tokyo as well. But what we could see are the poles definitely checked out for the Shikoku idea, so I was kind of thinking of that. Honestly, I'm kind of surprised Blinky didn't come there as well, but maybe he thought the landscape looked different, I don't know. But yeah, I go for Shikoku here. I was pretty confident. I was like, I think I can do some damage here. But it didn't end up being Shikoku. It was actually over in Kyushu. He goes Osaka, also definitely a legit guess. But yeah, I was really happy about that. Obviously, it gives me a new life into the series here, really. It's the first time I've done significant damage. 4,000 to 3,000 HP here, and we have, oh my gosh. From my perspective, this was a boring round to some extent, but when you watch from both POVs, it's really funny. As we load it immediately, I can see there's 2 yellow bands on this pole. So there's 2 yellow stickers on the pole, and that is specifically this road up in the north of Russia, around Karelia and in Murmansk. And as for Blinky, he probably does know that one, but probably just forgot or didn't look at that immediately. So I'm like, I don't want to let this guy line it up. And yeah, so I just went straight in for the guess. I didn't even check that there was a railway next to us. Meanwhile, check out where Blinky is. Literally, maybe like 5, 6, 7,000 kilometers away in Yakutsk on the other side of Russia. Actually, craziness. We have the most different guesses basically possible right now. And Blinky takes a look around. Look, he's still 8 seconds, 7 seconds, 6 seconds even, 5 seconds, 4 seconds, zooms out. We're 2 seconds left. Obviously I knew the road, so if I get this right, it's just over for him. And switches with 1 second to go, with just over 1 second to go, and lines it up and actually gets super close there. As for me, I was there 10, 15 seconds earlier, almost 15 seconds earlier. No reward. My guess also wasn't that good because the railway starts, I guess, over on this town. So he may have even known that. I don't know. Regardless, very, very annoying there because it would have been a great one to win. And he sends the laughing emoji. I'm like, okay. I didn't understand. Clearly, that was for the viewers, not for me. Anyway, at this point, Blinky has regained the lead with that one. Kind of annoying, but such is life. Sometimes that happens. And we are into the next round. Probably the 2 countries you would consider here with the black car long antenna, with this landscape, the dry landscape, you would consider Spain and Israel here. And to me, the only one that really stuck out was Spain. It just looked like Spain to me. Very white soil, something you see commonly in the north. And also this kind of mild landscape. You can see these hills are they're rocky and kind of small, and that also reminded me of the north. I checked the car, and I did remember at that moment, actually, where I clicked, the black car long antenna is quite common. I remembered that at the moment, so I was like, okay, this actually does make sense then. And I was like, well, I'm confident, so I'm just going to go for it here. Put him on. Maybe he doesn't quite know where it is. And Blinky is then left to respond. And I feel like he makes kind of an uncharacteristic guess here, because I feel like where Blinky clicks, the mountains are too big. I could be wrong about that, but I do think you would see bigger mountains where Blinky clicks. And I think Blinky, obviously as the best player in the world, but also just as someone who's really good with the compass, it was a bit unexpected. And look at that, 4 times damage. That's going to be 1,000 points difference between us. And so that is enough to secure 5,000 points of damage and the NMPZ game. And it didn't hit me. until we got to the loading screen of NMPZ. I was like, wait, it's NMPZ, the actual mode where I have an advantage. Or I actually think Blinky's around my skill level in NMPZ, but at least like I have a good chance of winning this, you know what I mean? So yeah, so at this point, I'm like, oh, true 50-50. We got a bit lucky and we played pretty nicely on the no move. Now, I think the Japan was a bit lucky. The Spain was definitely nice, but now it's the big boy mode. And this is obviously my best mode. It's the only mode I actually practice. So here to make a statement on this one. And immediately, zi8gzag zoomed straight into the monitor. So this one was a bit baity because the bike was driving right-hand side of the road for some reason. He was, yeah. He was definitely on the right-hand side of the road. I don't know why. I did not really trust that this would be Philippines. The soil was too red for Philippines, and the trees didn't quite feel right either. And at that point, pretty much the idea would just be Indonesia. Like, Indonesia is definitely the country with the landscape that fits the most for this. Obviously, Indonesia, you could literally be 5,000 kilometers wrong in Indonesia, so you really gotta pull up your socks and think a little bit about it. I click South Kalimantan. It's not exactly what I thought it looked like, but overall, like it's really nice and central, so you're not gonna be too wrong, especially round one. You can guarantee yourself, you know, some safety by clicking there. Blinky's in Java, which makes sense with the red soil. And I was thinking to myself in these last moments, if it's not Kalimantan, then I think it's gonna be like Lampung. And you can see, I just opened the map here. Lampung is this southern province here. And I almost make the switch, but I was like, no, I can't really justify it. And yeah, it's not surprising to me that Blinky went Java, and it is a much better guess. So not a good start, but with the harsh scoring of the map, he only got 3,000 points for this. So it didn't end up being too bad for me. And it's only 1,300 to start off with. Not the start I wanted, but I am someone who improves as the pressure gets higher. Cope, but you know. Next one here. We have the white car with the brake light here, and we have Australian bollards, like obviously with the eucalyptus, I know it's Australia. Blinky actually taught me the meta that the white car 2023 copyright with the brake light is common around Melbourne. So he actually taught me that, like at some point on a Twitch stream. So that's where I was thinking. And I was like, well, you know, he might be confused. Honestly, Australia is a country that Blinky's very good at, but at the end of the day, I have more experience on Australia than anyone in the World League. So, and Blinky, well, as I said, a very strong Australia player, goes for that Eastern Victoria idea. It's even further out. I'm kind of surprised. It did probably look more like Melbourne to me. So even in hindsight, I wouldn't guess out where it was, even knowing that, but nice guess by Blinky regardless. Slightly closer. Next round here, I'm down at a disadvantage, and we're up to 2 times damage. And I see this coastal California. This is not the type of round I want to see. It's very specific. I knew there's a high chance that Blinky's gonna 5k it. Also, California on the coast region guessing, I've never been good at in general. It's already a weak area. Yeah, I was like, let me just pick some angle that makes sense and go. I click over here, like, which is like next to some like forest national parks. And I'm like, in hindsight, I don't know, I feel like it's gonna be a lot greener where I clicked probably, or at least look different. But I also just wasn't sure. Blinky, on the other hand, is like, has a very specific zoom here. I wonder how. Maybe he's actually looked at these roads. I'm not sure how he has such a specific zoom, but obviously the angle of the road was quite nice as well. And he ends up, I think he just moves off the 5k and ends up 3 kilometers away. So essentially the 5k there. Oh, I was annoyed about this round. I was like, come on. You know, already the moving game was very unlucky, I would say, in terms of rounds, but this just was annoying as well. Anyway, calm damage onto me there. And I am sitting below half health versus Blinky's flawless 6,000 HP. And we get a very interesting round here. So immediately with the quality of the camera and the road lines here, I know it should be India. Pretty much no other country came to my mind here. And then what's interesting here is we have pine trees in the background. Now, pine trees, you guys at home may realize, pine trees more common in colder climates, which is true in India as well. So normally they're found up in the mountains in 2 specific areas, normally in Meghalaya state and also in the states in the Himalayas. So that's what I was thinking when I saw these. I immediately clicked down in Meghalaya because I did some coaching with Duskron, who's really good at India. And I remember we kind of went over these trees and he said, the ones in Meghalaya, they look more scraggly. They look less organized than the ones you see in the West. And I was like, do these feel less organized? Maybe. They're a bit kind of weirdly shaped, which would fit for the Meghalaya idea. Also, what I thought fit for the Meghalaya idea was these little like basket things around the trees. I was like, that just looks weirdly northeastern rather than northwestern to me. I don't know why I thought that, but it just did. As you can see, I moved my marker over west because I was like, it really could be there. But at the end of the day, I was like, I don't know. I just had the gut feeling. I went with my gut. Meghalaya was what I was thinking. And Blinky is there too, by the way. So obviously the duel is not ending on this one. Who's going to be closer though? it ends up being even further east there. So I am closer, not too much closer, but I mean, I think very few players in the league would get this correct. I think this round is pretty much at the top range of the difficulty that I'm actually capable of doing. Blinky is another player who is very, very capable. So I think this is kind of a high skill round, if I could say so. So 600 points of damage there. We're on the board on NMPZ just as the multis are getting higher. So that's obviously where we want to be. And we get the next round here. We have Latvia poles right there, just the kind of A-frame wooden pole, very common in Latvia. And also the copyright and the car generation don't really make sense for Russia, which is the other place you would see it. So yeah, just Latvia here. I thought it looked further west, weirdly, but I didn't want to commit. Blinky actually does commit further west. It's weird. Like, I don't know if you could ask Blinky or me exactly why it feels further west. Like, it's hard to describe. But sometimes when you've played as much as us, you just get the vibe and you go and you trust yourself. And on this occasion, it is right between us there. Like, basically, it makes a right angle there. So yeah, no surprise. And 81 points of damage takes me down to a clean and even 2,600. Blinky with a 2-to-1 HP advantage here. Let's see what he can do with it. And we get this round. Oh my gosh, I'm actually quite astounded how quickly Blinky guesses here, because to me, I could see Mexico and I could see Colombia. This is a classic 50-50. The abundance of bananas on the hill would be more Colombia. They do grow more bananas in Colombia than in Mexico. Look at the average scores here, 3.8k versus 2.4k. Clearly I missed some Colombia on NMPZ at some stage. Anyway, oh, I remember actually, it was against MK. But anyway, I am now left with a conundrum. So what was pointing me towards Mexico was the fact that we had like a red brick building in the background there. I was like, that's weird brick for Colombia. And also the sun appeared quite southern to me, even though in hindsight you can see with this compass that it's not really, but for whatever reason I thought the sun was quite south, which would obviously put us in the northern hemisphere solidly. But of course Colombia is still in the northern hemisphere, so it didn't actually count it out. But just to me, that was what's leading me towards Mexico, and what's leading me towards Colombia was just in general the landscape, the white sand here, the bananas and these pines. So at the end of the day, I was pretty 50-50, I can't lie. I was probably like 60% confident on Colombia, and I end up going for it. And we guess a similar area because around where Blinky clicked is where you see most of the banana plantations. And unfortunately, I hedged a little further south there. It was a bit further north towards where I initially clicked. We're in the same state though, and Blinky is closer for another 600 points of damage, taking me below 2,000 HP. So obviously, high stakes now, extremely high stakes. Not to mention, this is very important for my seeding in the upcoming Japan tournament. And we have some New Zealand here. New Zealand, not a country I love. Obviously, 2023 World Cup, that's how I went out in the NMPZ against Gelotris. But shouts to Ziggy. Ziggy was commentating this game, and he was the one who's been coaching me a little bit on New Zealand here and there. And me and Blinky are just kind of zooming around towns where you see a little bit of water south. Basically, we can see like a lake to our left here. It's to our southeast. And yeah, we're just trying to kind of work out where you're going to see some water in that pattern. So immediately I was thinking the central lake. Then after about 30 seconds, I moved my marker up to Taranga. I was thinking, I put it there because I was like, this could potentially be Auckland. I was actually thinking that. So like, I was not really sure between my other two guesses, but I was like, Auckland being a possibility. And I didn't really think Blinky would guess Auckland, but I thought if it's Auckland and I go to Taronga and it is there, then I'm probably going to do big damage if he's gone further south, which I thought was decently likely. So he's even looking at South Island, which is reasonable, but I definitely got the North Island vibe. So Blinky was like probably less sure on the round than I was in totality. So I opt to keep it in Taronga, and you can see that Blinky is still there. With 7 seconds, he's still there. 6 seconds, 5 seconds. It looks like it's going to be an inconsequential round. 2 seconds left, 1 second left. He switches down to Wellington. A very last minute switch there. And look, we were on it, both of us, but then he moves away. And look, I thought, look at my face. I'm like, thinking that's game, but it's not. 5,000 points, Blinky's still in it with a shot, and a 4 times multiplier, or are we up to 4.5? I think we're up to 4.5, but a 4.5 times multiplier, guys, anything can happen. Like 300 HP is not a big disadvantage if you get a big country like this, and it is going to be Turkey. So Turkey, I knew just because of the coverage and the way the round looked and the road and everything, but where is obviously difficult. Kayseri is the big city that normally has a lot of snow coverage in Turkey, so that was my first thought, but then I could see the shadow of the Google camera was very boxy. So I thought that's going to be the new pickup truck coverage that you get in Turkey. And so I end up just trying to rack my brain for anywhere where it was like giga snowy with the with this Google car. And I was like, well, I want to guess quite far east anyway, because that's generally my vibe. And then I thought back, okay, Turkey coaching, Turkey Discord server, which we have with Gelotris. And then I was like, wait, this one, I remember people talking about the easy snow coverage they're like, and then I was like, wait, the snow coverage around Lake Van. This is Lake Van over here. I was like, man, everyone always talks about the snowy, super snowy coverage that you get there. Now, I hadn't had one of these rounds in like 6 months. I could not remember exactly what it looked like, but I just remembered people talking about it when the whole Turkey update happened and they got the pickup truck coverage. And I was like, well, you know, time to use a meta I had long forgotten, really. I was just reminded by the game, and I was not sure at all. And meanwhile, Blinky is quite a bit further west here, like just kind of central hedging, I would say, for all the different possibilities with the truck. I would be interested to see if he actually knew it was the truck, because maybe he didn't realize that. It kind of requires a little bit of lateral thinking to actually work out that that's the truck. So yeah, I easily could have missed it too. And yeah, we have very different guesses here. Obviously at 4.5, unless it's perfectly between us, it's going to be game here. And I keep committing. I keep clicking further and further east. Like a few seconds ago, I had it over here, but I keep clicking further and further east as the time runs out here. It does run out. And you can see from my reaction, there we go. That is the win. A huge win there over Blinky. Only 4 people in the league so far have beaten Blinky, myself one of them. So that is obviously pretty exciting. He was on a 14 win streak, 14 series win streak, guys. That's crazy. And we broke it. So there you go. That was the analysis. I'll probably do an analysis for my games after the Tokyo tournament. And yeah, there you go. Blinky, thanks for the game, bro. It was a great game. And flawless me in moving. So it takes a bit to come back from a flawless victory, I think, but my mentality was strong. And as I said, I was not going to be phased by the moving game. I know that Blinky is just so much better than me on there. So that's pretty much it for the video. Let me know if you enjoyed this, and I'll see you guys in a video very soon. Till next time, and goodbye.